Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Got a little bit of breaking news, a little update on the Matt LaFleur saga, if you will, the contract extension or what have you. We're going to dive into that. Adam Schefter was just interviewed by Jen Latta over at ESPN, and she did a hell of a job in the interview. Got a lot of information, a lot of interesting takes from Adam Schefter. And we're going to talk about, all right, which side is Adam Schefter coming from if you had to pick one, whether it be the Packers or Matt LaFleur's camp, and we'll try to decipher all the information in between and kind of dive into everything here. That's what we're going to cover this morning. Before we get into it, if you would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon. If you're new here, welcome into PTA. Thank you for making us part of your morning. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon. Also, you can join our community over at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. So the information. Let's try to dive into this in an orderly fashion. This is going to be tough, flying solo and trying to piece all this together. Again, sometimes it's not what's being said, it's how it's being said. And I did not expect this. The reason I wanted to go live and talk about it, I did not expect the tone that Adam Schefter had. Now, I want to put this out here. I'm not saying Matt LaFleur is definitely going to be back. I'm not saying Matt LaFleur is definitely going to be fired. Okay, we're just going to have a conversation about it and unravel all the latest information that we do have here. I did screw up one thing in the Patreon. I just want to make sure that I get that information ready so we can read it off to you guys and gals in here. And I apologize for those in the Patreon. I'll try to get that image updated here in just a second. So here's what we got. Let me just go ahead and get it on the screen. So obviously the latest on the Matt LaFleur situation. So Adam Schefter was on with Jen Latta over on ESPN, and they interviewed him. Okay. So again, we've been very, very vocal about this in terms of, all right, where is Adam Schefter coming from? Right. What is the information that he's providing? Where are his sources and all that? Like we mentioned before, if Ian Rapoport puts a report out, right, most likely that's coming from the team. If it involves a player and the team, like maybe a negotiation, maybe something that happened behind the scenes, right? Typically, Ian Rapoport, he works for the league, right? Now, ESPN's got a partnership with the NFL as well, but NFL Network and, Ian Rapoport, he's kind of the mouthpiece for the teams, essentially. He's got ties to agents. Absolutely, he does. But if his employer is the NFL, which side do you think he's going to choose, right? Which side would you choose? You're kind of forced to. That's your job. With Adam Schefter working for ESPN, not that he doesn't have ties and sources within the building. We know he does. But it tends to be a report that kind of comes out of the players' camp. And in this case, the coach's camp, because he's got an agent and they're negotiating a contract. Just want to lay that out there, okay? So if you feel like this is biased toward Matt LaFleur, there might be a little bit there, right, is all I'm saying. So here's what we got. So I tried to throw down the quotes as Jim was doing the interview and just do it in real time. There's a little piece of this quote missing, which I'm going to read off to y'all. I said, update on negotiations between Matt LaFleur and Ed Policy per Adam Schefter. Quote, and I've got the other one set up right here. So this is the remaining part of that, like I said, that's on the screen. He said, quote, there is no deal right now, and it's a negotiation. There could be a breakthrough any moment, and I think both sides would like to make that happen. But it's now Wednesday, and they've been trying to do this for a while. The longer it lingers, the more you wonder. How I would interpret it right now is it's up in the air. So again, that may not sound like much, but what it tells me is I honestly expected this to be done quick. Not that Matt would be back or Matt would be fired, specifically. Whatever decision they made, you would expect them to make it really quick. Meaning, if Matt's your guy, then you give the market value for him. Another thing that Adam Schefter said on there, you know how we talk about the coach salaries? Jen did the same thing I did the other day live on the show. She went and pulled, using AI and the internet, hey, what are the average coaching salaries? And she named off some of the top coaches and the salaries. And Adam Schefter said, yeah, that's way lower than what they're actually getting paid. So some of those guys toward the top that are getting paid way more than Matt LaFleur, it sounds like they're getting paid even more than that. So if that's what the market is, now you got to ask yourself, how valuable is Matt LaFleur? Everybody in the comments, do me a favor. What do you consider Matt LaFleur? Would you consider him top 3 coach in the league, top 5 coach in the league, top 10 coach in the league? Maybe you don't think if you want him fired, you're saying he's not a head coach caliber coach, essentially, right? Let us know in the comments, where would you rank Matt LaFleur as a coach? All right. Now let's move along. Next tweet. Here's another quote from Adam Schefter on this interview. Quote, most places, I don't want to read this until I get your all's pick in. Let me get everybody's, I don't want this to sway your opinion. I want your honest opinion. All right. That's why it's Packer Fan Total Access. We want to hear the fans' voice in here. Okay. All right. So we got them rolling in. Good deal. Now I'll go ahead and read this. Okay. Here's the next quote. Quote, most places would have a high level of interest in Matt LaFleur. And by the way, Jen asked, where would you rank Matt LaFleur? Essentially is what she asked. Like, how does the rest of the league see Matt LaFleur? Because, we're in Green Bay. Fans either love him or they hate him, right? There's kind of no in between. Here's what was said. Quote, most places would have a high level of interest in Matt LaFleur. I don't know if maybe they would hold up and say, Team X, you want him? Give us a 3rd round pick or a 2nd round pick. The Packers once sent Mike Holmgren to Seattle for a 2nd round pick. So now that's a long time ago to do a comp, but that's a good example. Mike Holmgren won a Super Bowl. Matt LaFleur hasn't done that, right? So that would suggest Matt LaFleur isn't worth a 2nd round pick if you go based off that. Sean Payton, they sent a boatload of picks for Sean Payton here recently. Maybe that's a more reasonable comp. However, with the whole Sean Payton thing, he's won a Super Bowl as well, right? Matt hasn't gotten over that hump. Now, you guys know my opinion. I always look at it like, okay, did they have similar pieces, similar assets? Well, Matt LaFleur's had a Hall of Fame quarterback, right, on the backside of his career. Yeah, they got 2 MVPs. However, so did Sean Payton. He had Drew Brees, who's going to be a Hall of Famer if he's not already in. I don't know, but anyway, so that's somewhat comparable. However, Matt LaFleur has had to run it back 3 years in a row with the youngest roster in the league. Sean Payton had veterans sprinkled all throughout that team, right? So there's a lot of comps that come into play here, but nonetheless, he's saying maybe a 3rd round pick. So let me know in the comments real quick. I'm going to go back and see where you guys got him ranked here because we're about to get to that portion. I asked the question for those of you just tuned in. Where would you rank Matt LaFleur in terms of where he is as a head coach? Nick McSwain says top 5. Got it. All right. Chad Inc. says he's top 10, I think. All right. Cool. Number 1 Packer fan, top 10. J. Cole says top 7. I love this one. I usually don't highlight these because I asked a specific question and it's like, okay, but this is fun. Better than any unemployed coach, that's for sure. It says Virens or Virens. Hope I'm saying that name right. Pretty flowers there, by the way, man. Don't let Mandy see those. She'll have me over at Home Depot buying a dozen of those today. J. Cole said top 7. Mike in the chat says Matt LaFleur is a top 10. 2-0 for this says Matt's top 5. Paging Dr. Crutch, top 5. Dan Hallisey ain't even going to give you a ranking. He just says fire him. Got it. Forrest Foxify says it'll get done. He's in the top 10, probably 7 or 8 right now. Could be near the top if he wins a Super Bowl. Got it. Good stuff. All right. Let's see here. Doc Russo. I hope I'm saying that right. Top 5. Here's another one. Top 15 from Ray. Packer Superfan says 15th best coach mid-league. So I think he's saying kind of the middle of the road in terms of a starting coach. Got it, Mike? Got it? All right. Let's see what else we got here. 2-0 for this says top 5. Reliable random top 5. Gearing Spencer says top 10. All right, so we're going to move on now, all right? So I just wanted to get your all's take. I know some people are like, who cares what they think? I care what they think, right? Our viewers, our listeners, we want to know your all's opinion on this. So they're saying, Adam Schefter saying, what would he be worth, a 3rd-round pick? So I'm going to ask everybody in the chat, and I probably won't put these on. I do want to kind of read it and kind of see where you guys are at. Would you be willing to trade Matt LaFleur for a 3rd-round pick? Yes or no? Let's put that in the chat. Now let's continue on with this report. All right, another quote here. Adam Schefter on ESPN right now. Keep in mind, everybody just put where they rank him, right? If I'm Matt LaFleur, I'm saying if you don't want me, pay me. If you don't want to pay me, then let me go, right? Now, he didn't say Matt LaFleur told him that, but Adam Schefter's looking at, you see what I'm saying? It kind of feels like Schefty's kind of a little more in LaFleur's camp there in that regard. He says, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I'm saying if you don't want me, then let me go. I agree with that. I've always agreed with that with a player. I agree with it with Aaron Rodgers. I agree with it with Brett Favre. Like, you either want him to be your starting quarterback or you don't. And if you don't, then just get rid of him. Let him go. To me, it looks pretty crabby to go, well, we don't want you, but we're going to hold on to you and try to get something for it, right? I don't know. It just seems like it's operating in bad faith, and I think that stuff can catch up with you from time to time. So I thought that was interesting that he said it and worded it that way. But yeah, let me throw this text. I got people texting me like crazy on this right now. I've got a couple people that are close in Green Bay there that I'm just trying to get any information I can. Yeah, give me just a second. All right, so we'll see if anything comes out of that. All right, next. This is where it gets interesting, right? I think it is. Yeah, here we go. Well, there's a couple other parts that get interesting. Adam Schefter on ESPN. Quote, if you're Team X and you want Matt LaFleur, why would I give Green Bay a mid-round pick when I could go sign John Harbaugh and have offset on the contract, save money, and not have to give up a draft pick? So again, if you look at this through the lens of other NFL teams, why would they give up a draft pick? Like, just go hire another coach. And if you guys don't understand the offset rules, go look them up. But essentially, you pay the offset of what you're offering. So you get that coach. He's still being paid by the other team if he had years left on his deal. And you're getting a cheaper buy-in on that, if that makes sense, right? So essentially, the way I understand it, and you guys fact check this, go look at the details. I didn't plan on doing this live on the show. But let's say John Harbaugh was due $15 million by Baltimore this year, right? And you go out and you sign him to a 4-year deal worth $20 million per, right? Then you're only on the hook for the $5 million. They got to pay the $15 million that you pay the offset there. And then next year, obviously, your full responsibility of the contract kicks in. That's what he's saying right there. So again, why would a team give up a draft pick there? And also, if a team's not willing to give up a draft pick, this is the thing that bothers me about how long this is dragging out as a Packer fan. And again, you guys know I've been clear. I want Matt LaFleur back. I think he's a great head coach. I think you had the majority of your best players go down with injuries this year. You already had the youngest roster in the league. Like, we said, this is a 3-year window going into the season. I have seen nobody disagree with that, right? So this was year 1 of a 3-year window to win a Super Bowl. We had a flurry of injuries kind of set everything back. You've got all your team captains, Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, Micah Parsons, Josh Jacobs, all going into the media and basically saying, we want Matt LaFleur back. What the hell are we doing? Right? You had Aaron Rodgers comment on it from Pittsburgh going, why in the hell would you fire Matt LaFleur? He's one of the great coaches. So again, all that coming into play. I want Matt LaFleur back. So I want to be very, very clear on that. But if you look at this through the eyes of another team, why would you trade a draft pick? And on top of that, this is what I was getting at. I hate that we're dragging our feet on this. Every day that goes by that you don't give Matt LaFleur fair market value on him as a coach, you know what you're doing? You're kind of hurting yourself. First of all, the longer this goes on, I'll tell you something else it does. Not only does it piss Matt LaFleur off, right? It pisses his assistants off who are loyal to him. Okay, now if you want to scrap the whole thing, that doesn't matter. But why are you lowballing an offer on a guy you don't want? Does that make sense, guys? Like, why would you do that? Like it's a great point here. Reliable Random says he has the locker room. He does. And it's funny, too, before those exit interviews, portion of the fan base would go, he's lost the locker room. And then all the team captains come up like, what are we even talking about here? This is crazy, right? So you're going to lowball him, right? You're going to lowball him, piss him off. You're going to piss the assistants off and basically tell them we don't know if he's the guy or not. That's essentially what you're saying. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, whether I agree with it, you agree with it, doesn't matter. But you're sending a message to the entire organization that we don't know if he's the guy, but we want him at a cheaper price. You're not committed to winning if you truly believe he's not the guy, right? That's kind of how I see that. Now, what's it do to the locker room? Even if you get the deal done now, in my opinion, if you get the deal done now, and let's say everything's all happy-go-lucky, all right, the contract extension's done, do you think there's not going to be some people in that locker room the rest of the year going, man, they don't believe in us. They don't believe in the coach. What are we doing? You understand what I'm saying? And I know there's a portion of the fan base that says, no, you're putting the players on notice. I just don't believe it operates like that. I don't think those players are going, oh, God, they may not bring back our head coach. I better play better. I just don't think they think like that. I think they're trying to get their next check too. I think they're trying to play their best ball. And I think that as an organization, you just built this whole culture around this is the guy. We believe in everybody. Let's go do this thing. You had some stuff go awry with injuries and you lose a ton of starters. And now you already had the youngest team. And I see a lot of people going, well, San Francisco's doing with injuries. Yeah, they don't have the youngest roster in the league. They don't. They've got a bunch of veterans sprinkled in on that roster where when you lose a key player here and there, which they haven't had near as many key players go out as us. Bosa, yes. Now Kittle, but that just happened in the last game, right? And there's a couple sprinkled in here or there. But they've got a veteran-laced roster. We've got the youngest roster in the league. So when we lose players, we don't go to a veteran backup. We go to a practice squad caliber player, whether they have potential or not. So I think it's interesting how that unfolded. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. All right. So I threw another tweet out. I know I put it out there. Gosh, I probably missed it. Probably didn't throw it on here. Where's it at? So basically, he was asked, maybe I didn't. Man, I didn't tweet out the most important part. Let me just make sure here. Yeah, so I missed it. So they asked Adam Schefter. This was the most important part. Jen Latta, great job with this question. She said, where would he be viewed across the league? And Adam Schefter said, I spoke to someone. He said, I spoke to several people this weekend. Okay. He said, and very, very, very respected around the league. Okay. So he reached out to other coaches because he's got relationships with their agents and other, he's probably talking to Matt's agent, I would imagine. And they said that Matt LaFleur would be top 5 in the league is what he said. Again, that's not Adam Schefter's opinion, according to him. That was other people, very, very well-respected people across the league. I think of people like Andy Reid, maybe Vrabel, maybe, people like that is what I imagine it would be that caliber. Because he said very well-respected people across the league. And he said he's top 5, that he's a top 5 coach. So if he's top 5, what are we doing here? And again, okay, we may disagree with those folks, right? I get that. But I am always going to side with the opinion of a coach in the league, a general manager that's made it to the top in the league. I say it all the time. I disagree with some of Brian Gutekunst's moves, right? I disagree with some. The large majority of them I agree with, but I disagree with some. But I'm always going to throw it out there that, guys, listen, Brian Gutekunst has forgot more about football than I'll ever know. He's forgot more about player evaluation than I'll ever know, right? He's forgot more about scouting players than I'll ever know and how to work a draft board than I'll ever know, right? I want to be very, very clear with that. But when you got other people across the league saying he's top 5, it's a wild concept there. So Mike with the super chat, thanks so much. Is the more a question of us, they want Matt LaFleur to go of play calling or coordinating? I think that's Matt's struggle. It could be, Mike. So maybe it's not about money, right? I don't know, though. I have a hard time believing they're telling him you can't call plays and we're going to pick your assistants, but they still pay him like he's a top 5 coach. You know what I'm saying? And to me, Matt LaFleur's play calling is a strength. If there's a weakness in Matt LaFleur's coaching, to me, it's in-game management because he's so focused on play calling. Guys, that's not just exclusive to Green Bay. Any offensive-minded coach that calls the plays, their fan bases fight about this. They complain about this all the freaking time, right? Because it's like, okay, maybe that's why we're not as good at managing timeouts or challenges or subbing players in and out in crucial situations. Maybe that's why that happens, right? Is because he's so focused on play call. I know Michael Lombardi was big on that. Bill Belichick, for the most part, didn't call the defensive plays. He had other people calling the defensive plays so he could manage the entire game. And I always use Bill Belichick because he's got the most Super Bowls, right? Simple. So that could be the struggle, though. It could be part of it, right, Mike, that they're trying to pull some stuff out from under him. It's probably a combination of both, Mike. They're probably not willing to offer him what he can get on the open market, right? They're probably not willing to offer him that. And then on top of that, that are going, and we need to change this, this, and this. So put yourself in Matt LaFleur's shoes for a second. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me make sure I understand this right. You forced me, Brian Gutekunst, forced me to make a transition from Aaron Rodgers to the next starting quarterback in Green Bay. We did that. And in the process, we made the playoffs all 3 years after that transition to Jordan Love. I now have Jordan Love playing like a top 5 quarterback, top 3 quarterback in some case, second in EPA per drop back. I feel very comfortable saying Jordan Love is a top 5 quarterback now, personally. So he's coming to him going, okay, you forced me to go through that transition. We did. In 2019, when I wanted to fix the special teams, you guys said, no, we can't pay Darren Rizzi that much money. Sorry, you're going to have to go get somebody else. The special teams were horrible from 2019, 2020, 2021. And then in 2022, I'm not saying they're great, but I think we would all agree the special teams got significantly better from when we were shanking punts, snaps going over, holders' heads and punters' heads, punts getting blocked. When was the last time we had a punt blocked? Somebody remind me. Because remember, that happened in the game against the 49ers. A punt got blocked and returned for a touchdown. People forget that, right? Keep in mind, all that was happening because they would not approve Matt LaFleur the money to hire Darren Rizzi. So that's another thing that he's got kind of in the background. Like, okay, we missed out on those championship runs with Aaron Rodgers because special teams was horrible, and you refused to give me the money to pay Darren Rizzi to be the special teams coordinator. So then they approved the money for Rich Bisaccia in 2022. The special teams got better, but it's still not where it needs to be. That's something to throw in there. You couple in the youngest roster in the league. He's got to be looking at them going, oh, and you want me to do this with the youngest roster in the league? And then I think we would all agree Green Bay is definitely top 3, maybe top 5 in the amount of injuries that players have sustained, right, in the last however many years, 2 years at least. So is that Matt LaFleur's fault? Don't tell me he's practicing them too hard, because every team in the league has the same practice schedule. They have the same amount of time allotted, essentially. They're limited on what they can do, and they have union reps in practice controlling that stuff and filing grievances against teams if they abuse that, right? So it can't be the practice workload. He has no control over that, right? That's the CBA. That's collectively bargained. It can't be the medical staff. He doesn't make the decision on what medical staff to bring in, right? I imagine that's the front office that has final say in that. It's obvious Matt LaFleur didn't even have say in his freaking special teams coordinator when he was hired. I don't mean to get animated, but what the hell are we doing? Am I the only one that thinks that's weird? So I don't know, man. Joe Trev with the super chat. Watch Pack a Day with Mike Daniels. He said the team could use some vets that can set the tone. We've been saying it every year it's been 3 ever since Aaron Rodgers left. The first year, I get it. When Aaron left and you make this transition to Jordan Love, we said year 1, get a bunch of young talent in here and let's see if Jordan Love is the guy. Let's try to find an inkling of, yeah, he's the guy. We need to build the roster up around him. We need to get, whatever. Year 2, all right, I think Jordan Love's the guy, because the back half of his first year here in 2023, the back half, boy, he's playing great football. It's like, all right, he's a franchise quarterback. He's the dude. Let's go all in. The next year, you run it back with the youngest roster in the league, right? So this year, you do go out and get Micah Parsons, but you still run it back with the youngest roster in the league. I completely agree with that sentiment, which if you guys watch the show, you know that. So thanks, Ike. Appreciate the super chat. All right. One other thing here. Adam Schefter, actually a couple more here. This is where it starts to go off the rails, the conversation. So Adam Schefter on ESPN said, quote, if you're team X and you want Matt LaFleur, why would I give Green Bay a mid-round pick when I can sign John Harbaugh? So we hit that, all right? Here it is. So he mentioned, listen to this, I don't mean to laugh, but this blew my mind here. He mentioned you could go out and get John Harbaugh or Kevin Stefanski. What? Did you just say Kevin Stefanski? And I put a tweet. I said, listen, Adam Schefter, it sounds like we've reached a point where we are mentioning Kevin Stefanski in the same tier as Matt LaFleur. What are we talking about? Now, look at this. And you're going, well, Clayton, what do you mean by that? Kevin Stefanski's winning percentage is .446, guys. He wins 44% of the games he coaches. 44. Matt LaFleur, 65%. I got to play it. We ain't played it forever. We got to hit this, man. We got to do this. We got to hit you with a little Mark Murphy. Shout out to Mark Murphy, president. Did we get rid of it? Oh no, did we get rid of it? We might have gotten rid of it. No, there it is.
65%.
65%. That's what we. So Matt LaFleur is winning 65% of his games. That is 16th all time, by the way, in the history of the National Football League. Over 100 years, right? The league was founded in 1921, I believe, right? So we're 24 years, 25 years into this thing. 125. So, 105. I apologize. We just celebrated 100. Math's hard for this Kentucky redneck. Over 100 years of history in the league, and Matt LaFleur ranks 16th all time in winning percentage. Well, he hasn't won a Super Bowl. How many teams have won a Super Bowl with the youngest roster in the league? Oh, wait. Somebody did a comparison the other day. Shout out to Dame Stromstad in our Patreon group. Indiana, their average age on their team is 25 years old. Or, I'm sorry, 22 years old. The Packers are 25. So when you're in the ballpark of a college program in terms of average age, that's a wild, wild concept there. So again, Kevin Stefanski, 446, Matt LaFleur, 654, 16th all time compared to 139th all time. Listen, I'm a Packer fan through and through. And no matter what change they make, I'm going to be a Packer fan. We're going to be doing this podcast, and we're going to be trying to find the positive light in everything Packers, and we're going to talk ball every single day over here at PTA. That's good. That's happening. Me and the guys, we will be here. If this franchise ever goes into the tank house, we're going to be here talking about it, right? I want to be very clear about that. However, if they let Matt LaFleur go and they hire Kevin Stefanski as the next head coach, it's going to be tough. It's going to be so tough. So I asked the question on Twitter, because maybe I'm losing my mind here, and I'll try to get you guys an update. I updated it right before I went live. I wasn't losing my mind, evidently. I said, which head coach would you rather have in Green Bay? Before you roast me, I choose LaFleur, because I knew there's going to be people going, what are you even tweeting this for? Because it got mentioned. Matt LaFleur, 91%, Kevin Stefanski, 8%. Somebody in the comments actually mentioned it to me. That's why I was like, what are we doing? So, all right. Travis with the super chat. Thank you so much, Travis. He says, I prefer the Andy Reid rule. If you're great at it, eventually the Super Bowls come. But more and more Americans are grieving crybabies, don't value process. There you go. That's a real harsh way to say it. And I'm not calling anybody who disagrees with my take a crybaby. I understand the sentiment, though, Travis. I do think we are a gotta have it now, instant gratification society, not just in America, but the world, right? Like, it's just kind of where we're at, it is. And that's why you see programs who constantly make changes, or programs, but franchises constantly make changes. They're constantly in the tank house. They're constantly in the cellar, think about it like this with Cleveland. Baker Mayfield was a MVP candidate this year, right? Cleveland moved on from Baker Mayfield. Have you seen how their quarterbacks played this year? I know people get excited about Shedeur Sanders, and maybe there's talent there, maybe there's not. Same thing, a portion of their fan base likes Dylan Gabriel, right? Shedeur Sanders finished in the 40s in PFF grade. Dylan Gabriel, I think, was in the 30s or the 20s. It was horrible, right? Horrible. So what has Stefanski done in Cleveland? And I know the argument is, well, it's a horrible organization. What can he do? I understand that, but he has the best pass rusher in the league, and Myles Garrett just set the single-season sack record, right? Unless you think Micah's better. I can understand both sides of the argument. Some people prefer sacks. Other people prefer pressure. It is what it is. But, he had Baker up there. Baker goes on to Tampa, and they've had a little bit of success, right? Now, Baker bounced around a little bit too. And I don't know exactly what year Stefanski came in, and maybe they moved on from Baker right before that or whatnot. But what the hell has Stefanski done in Cleveland to even put him in the conversation? So I think it kind of goes back to, and thank you for that super chat there, Travis. I agree with a certain extent, but again, man, if people disagree with my take, I don't want to call them crybabies, you know what I mean? And maybe you're not doing that. Maybe I'm taking it out of context. Nick McSwain says, discourse around the Bears game is funny. I see many people say Rashawn sucks, LVN sucks, K9 sucks, Valentine sucks, everyone sucks, and then immediately say we need to fire Matt LaFleur. It's so true, Nick. It's so true. Well, it's his job to coach those guys up. Oh, is he coaching defense now? Is that what he's doing? Is he? Yeah. And by the way, I don't think any of those players suck. what sucks, to use the word, about Keyshawn Nixon is I felt like at times he played good this year. If he hadn't committed the stupid personal foul penalties and that stuff in between, right? And if he hadn't bid on double moves and just played his assignment, I would be going into this offseason going, I like K9. We'll bring him back. Golly, boy. Penalty after penalty after penalty. And when he got cooked, it's because he was not playing his assignment. He was just biting on, double moves underneath. So I get that too. Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and close that out. I'll try to keep an eye on anything else that comes out here. Mike Whip with the super chat. Thank you so much, Mike. He says, after thinking about it, I could go either way with Matt decision. That being said, if we do go another direction, I'd love Tomlin. Guaranteed Ben Johnson doesn't talk to Mike T next year. Yeah, and the owner meetings are going to be very, very interesting. I don't know if you've seen the report that came out, and Stephen A. Smith talked about it. He said that coaches around the league, he said he's hearing from multiple coaches around the league and Matt LaFleur's friends, which you want to know who Matt LaFleur's friends are? Go look at Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree and how many of them are head coaches in the league. Stefanski might be one. I'm not 100% sure, but what that means, let me tell you what he said first. Stephen A. Smith said that they did not like what Ben Johnson said about Matt LaFleur and kind of how he's disrespected Matt LaFleur the entire time. So when you get to the owner meetings, imagine Ben Johnson walking in those owner meetings, right? And you've got Kyle Shanahan, you've got Sean McVay, right? You've got Kevin O'Connell. You've got Mike McDaniel if he ends up getting another head coaching job. I don't know if he will or not. There's far more than those. Those are just ones that first come to mind. Are going to walk into that where you're kind of intermingling with the other coaches and blah, 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 right? And all of a sudden you look up and there comes Ben Johnson in the room, who's just talked nothing but crap since he's got here. So now if you're saying that you want Mike Tomlin because he's a tougher character than Matt LaFleur, be careful what you wish for. Go look at Mike Tomlin's winning percentage. Go look at what Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game. God, what was it? I think somebody said, I shouldn't even mention it. I want to say they said like 2012 or something crazy. Yeah, I mean, if you don't like Matt LaFleur and what they've done in the playoffs with his whatever it is, 333 winning percentage or whatever, Mike Tomlin here lately has been bad. It's kind of like John Harbaugh too. We're thinking about what John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin did 13 years ago. Well over 10 years ago. And the reality is sometimes if you don't give a coach enough time to do it, think about Philly, the Philadelphia Eagles. If they had held on to Andy Reid, would they have even more Super Bowls than they do? Now, they knocked the hire out of the park, obviously, with Sirianni winning championships, right? They've won 2 now under him, I believe. At least maybe it's just 1, however many it. No, it's 2, right? No, it was Doug Peterson before and then Sirianni, I believe. So they nailed that hire, but then Andy Reid goes to Kansas City and, they start actually challenging the Patriots' success, right? In terms of the franchise, the dynasty. So appreciate the super chat, Mike. Thank you so much. He wants Mike Tomlin. Again, man, I disagree with that take, but respect the opinion, Mike. Appreciate you, buddy. Solder with the super chat. If they do re-sign Matt LaFleur for the $15 million per year market rate, see, that's the thing that Schefter is pushing back on, Solder. It might be higher than $15 million. Because, again, the numbers we have would suggest it'd probably be in the 15 million range. But every number that Jen Latta rattled off to Adam Schefter, he went lower, 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 meaning the price was lower. If I remember correctly, the price was lower the number she was saying was lower than what the coaches were actually making. So, again, that stuff is not public, obviously. So, per the market rate, which I'm okay with, the Packers fan base is going to be toxic in 2026. See, it's funny you say that, Soder, because that's what it feels like, right? Like, man, the majority of the fans want him gone. And this is what they were saying on Jen's show this morning was they were like, man, you kind of lose the fan base if you don't fire him now, right? Well, my most recent poll question, let me hit refresh here so we get the latest numbers. You would think the majority of the fan base wants him gone, right, Soder? Look at this. Put the tweet out yesterday, talked about Micah Parsons, Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, said they wanted him back, right? Do you agree with them or should Matt LaFleur be fired, right? Keep him. 63% of the fan base is saying keep him, right? 36% is saying fire him. So this is still a minority of the fan base that wants him gone. Now, Will it be toxic? If you're following the people that all they do is complain and they want people fired every 2 seconds, yeah, it's going to get toxic. Absolutely. Everything's going to be toxic if that's the case, right? So, I know the people that I associate with, I feel like this is pretty indicative of the people that I associate with, people that I'm DMing with on the side and this and that with with the Packers, in terms of people that write for the Packers, cover the Packers, things like that. I feel like if we ask 10 of those folks, I think probably 3 or 4 of them would say, yeah, he should be gone. But the majority is saying, no, this is crazy. Keep him. So I feel like that's a pretty accurate assessment there. So, appreciate the super there though. In terms of the 15 million, the way I see that, Solder, is, listen, man, he's either the guy or he isn't. And if you don't think he's the guy, then you move on. It's that simple. Now, there's a reason that he's wanting that Ed Policy might potentially keep him. And the contract negotiations, this type of stuff happens, right? It happens all the time. The coach wants as much money as he can get. I think it's probably more about what I think it was Mike that said earlier. About the coordinating and everything. I think it's more about that probably than it is the money. I don't think they're like lowballing the hell out of him, right? But it's probably more about, well, you need to change this, you need to change that. Now, at some point as a coach, you got to go, like we said earlier, hey, man, so you don't want me to get paid what I think my market value is, and you want me to have less say, this probably ain't the place for me. I'm thinking it might get to that point. That's why I wanted to talk about this with what Adam Schefter said, knowing that most likely this information is coming out of Matt LaFleur's camp. Then maybe that's the next step here, is that Matt goes, you know what? Nah, I'll coach this year out and hit the open market next year, or you can trade me, And I don't know if there's a no trade clause in Matt LaFleur's contract or anything like that, like meaning he has to approve the trade. I don't know. We would find out real quick if it got to that point for sure, right? So, Packer super fan Mike in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, how many long-term coaches are still in the playoffs? Well, you've got our boy Sean McVay, right? Long-term coach there. He's and you guys remember this too. I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to get back to your question here, Mike. And maybe I need to pull up the playoff bracket just to make sure I don't give any bad information here. Let me do that off to the side real quick. So you remember the year that the Rams traded their picks, F them picks, right? Remember that famous line from their general manager, F them picks. There was a portion of the Packer fan base of, this is stupid, this is reckless, this is blah, 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 blah. And they went out and won a Super Bowl, right? What did they do? They went all in on veteran players. And they knew that created a window to win the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl, and they had one or two bad years where they had a little setback. And they're like, it's going to take them forever to rebuild this. Boy, it's going to take forever for them to rebuild this. And where are they at now? They've been right back in the hunt, right? So that's something to try to revisit this time of year, right? So he says, how many long-term coaches are still in the playoffs? Here is what's left in the playoffs. You ready for this, Mike? Long-term, I don't know exactly what you mean there. I imagine you mean not a young and up-and-coming coach, someone who's been there, who's been in the league for a while, who's been there for a while, that type of thing, right? So number 1 seed in the NFC is the Seattle Seahawks, right? That is Coach McDonald. He has been there for 2 years, right? So he's a younger coach. And the cool thing about McDonald, defensive-minded coach. That's kind of rare, right? So he's still in there, okay? Let's just go through all the playoff teams since they're up already, right? Chicago, newer coach, right? First-year coach, okay? Philly, that's Sirianni. He's been here for a while, right? He's been there. He's won a Super Bowl last year. I want to say he's been there for 4 or 5 years. So I don't know what you consider a long-term coach, but I feel like if it's somebody who's been there for 2 or 3 years, I mean, at what point do they become long-term, right? If you're saying it compared to how long Matt's been here since 2019. So he's been here for 6 years. So if you use that 6-year range, what have you, right? LA Rams, Sean McVay, long-term coach. Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, long-term coach. Pittsburgh made it. Mike Tomlin, he was a long-term coach, although he decided to step down, right? So he made the playoffs at 10-7 was his record, it looks like. Houston, DeMeco Ryans has been there now for 3 years, so not as long as Matt, right? So I think you consider him a newer coach. You've got Buffalo is our boy, I can't think of his name right now. It's evading me. He's been there for a while though. He's been there for gosh, probably longer than Matt, I believe. Can't think of his name. I could see him right now, but he was the coach that came up through, I think, the Belichick tree. He was in Carolina as the defensive coordinator. Help me out in the chat. What's his name? I'll get back to the super chats here in a second. McDermott. Is that who it is? Yeah, it's McDermott, right? Yeah, McDermott. So he's a long-term coach. Chargers is our boy Jim Harbaugh. I mean, if you see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I look at Jim Harbaugh and I'm like, okay, he coached the 49ers for a long time, had a lot of success, really, really high winning percentage. And then he leaves, goes to college, and comes back. That's, I mean, if you consider that short term, then yeah, that falls in there. I'm assuming he's asking like a young up and coming coach, unless you're just saying change sparks this type of stuff, right? Jacksonville, Liam Cohen, new coach, right? New England, first year coach for them in Mike Vrabel, although I can't help but laugh that Tennessee ran his ass out of town. So I kind of look at him as like a long-term top coach, if that makes sense. So, and then Denver, of course, Sean Payton, been around the league forever, right? And obviously stepped down from New Orleans, did TV, and then they threw the bag at him. And obviously Denver traded a bunch of picks for him, right? So if there was a Sean Payton out there right now, we're having a little bit different conversation, but we're talking about starting from scratch, starting over, and going with someone like Kevin Stefanski. I don't mean to laugh at Pete. It's a far place we've come from. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you, buddy. Hope that answers your question. Mike Whitt with a super chat. Sean McVay is Matt's best friend. You think Matt's calling him this week and telling him how to attack the Bears defense? That Bears secondary that I saw Saturday versus Devontae and Puka. Good luck. Yeah, the big thing is can their defense hold up in the second half? Ours didn't. I don't understand the people who throw this at the feet of Matt LaFleur and they don't mention a damn thing about our defense. It's just wild to me. It's absolutely wild. I mean, it's just like the comment we had started earlier there that Nick McSwain said, right, Mike? He says, discourse around the Bears game is funny. So many people say Rashawn sucks, LVN sucks, K9 sucks, Valentine sucks. Everybody on the defense sucks. And then immediately say they need to fire Matt LaFleur. I mean, I love Jeff Hafley as much as anyone. I don't think he should be fired, but what did you look at how many points we gave up the last 5 weeks of the season? What are we even doing here? So I don't know. Again, I think a lot of the fan base get caught up on one person. Hey, look, let's run their ass out of town. And then it piles on. And it seems like, man, the whole fan base is wanting him gone. And then you do a poll question. It's like, no, it's just 30 to 40% of them that do. Mike Witt with the super, back to it. Yeah, I think it is going to come down to how the Rams defense plays in the second half. Can they stop the Bears? And here's the thing too. The Rams have got a solid defense this year, right? Name a key contributor on defense that they've got that's missing with injury. There may be a bunch. I don't think there's many. With Green Bay, man, you can't lose Micah Parsons, Devontae White, then you lose Edgerrin Cooper in the game, right? You can't lose that many key players. I mean, those are your three. Those are arguably they're definitely three of your top four defensive players, I would imagine. If you see Devontae White in that lot, maybe you don't. That's okay. But man, you get to that point, and it's like, what else do you expect? Well, you're defending. You just explain why they gave up points, right? Now do that on offense. Oh, we're not allowed to do that on offense. You know what? You don't have to do it on offense. We scored 27 points on offense. Matt pieced it together. We had Lecitus Smith snapping the freaking football as our center. Lecitus Smith was our center on what should have been the game-winning drive. Lecitus Smith. We had who was it playing right tackle? We had Jordan Morgan playing right tackle. Not so much worried about that. Boy, Rasheed Walker, the tape looked bad. It looked real bad. I don't think he's going to be in Green Bay. We'll see. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go through the offseason here and get closer to potential cap savings and whether you want to re-sign some of these players. But, yeah, I don't understand why we give the complete pass to one side but not to the other side of the ball. It's strange. So, but, yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I think it will be an uphill battle for him. But you know what? Chicago, I want to be clear here, man. We all watch the same game. And, Mike, you're being honest, man. I agree with you. You look at it and go, man, they should be able to attack them. But for whatever reason, Chicago figures out ways to win ball games. You've got to tip your cap. Now, it does help. I'm going to say it. I don't care if it pisses people off or not. It does help that the Packers were penalized 7 times, right? They were penalized 7 times for 60-some yards. The Bears were penalized twice for 5 yards. Total, 5 total yards, because one was on a kickoff. And what's funny is you could throw that one out the window because they have to throw the flag because the ball didn't land in the landing zone. So you go back and watch that game, and you watch how many times they held Gary, and you watch how many times that they, the helmet, leave him with the crown of the helmet on Jordan again by the same player again, right? There's multiple times you can look. You found, we tweeted it out the whole game. Like, wow, hold up a minute. Why are they throwing these flags on Green Bay, but they're not throwing them on Chicago, right? Again, which way was the point spread at that moment in the game, which was the entire game, because the Packers pretty much led the entire game, right? That's a tough one too. So it's what it is, man. It's a large market team. You get a large market team where if they're doing good, the ratings go through the freaking roof, right? You know, a large market team like that, where the ratings can go through the roof if they're successful. And then you have the point spread tilted way in the favor of the opposite team. To me, that is the recipe for any cause whatsoever to go towards the other team. Prove me wrong this year. Show me a game where it didn't happen, because I've been watching it like a hawk. Joe with the super chat, thank you. Or Ike, Joe, aka Ike, thank you, bud. I'd like to see Sheldon rankings in this defense. Yeah, I'm excited to dive into some of the players that might potentially be brought in. The way I'm looking at it, strictly from defense this offseason, Joe, and we're going to get into it really, really heavy in the coming days here, maybe even later this afternoon if we have time. We're going to break down later this afternoon. We're going to break down Romeo Doubs. Or no, I'm sorry. We did Rasheed Walker, Romeo Doubs yesterday. Y'all can go watch those videos. They're already up. We're going to do Malik Willis and Quay Walker today at some point. We're going to kind of talk about their value and where they kind of sit, if that makes sense. So, but if I'm strictly talking defense, how do you make this defense better? You got to think about the pieces you're getting back. Micah Parsons will be back, right? Devontae Wyatt will be back. Now, those are the 2 most important positions on defense. Edge defender, wide 9, opposite your 3 tech, right? I think 3 tech is more important than edge defender personally, because it affects the run game. If you get someone who can do both, you're putting pressure in the lap of the quarterback. If you can steer the double teams inside, you can really eat off the edges. And it throws everything out of whack. So is Devontae Wyatt the 3 tech of the future? It's possible. I'm not sold. I'm glad he's a Packer, and I'm glad he's back, and the defense was much better with him in it. But I'm going to try to find that 3 tech. That's my top priority. Edge defender, I feel good about. You've got Micah Parsons. You can't pay a great 3 tech and 2 great edge defenders. You can, but you're probably not going to have a franchise quarterback. You got to cut costs somewhere else, right? So the model that I go by is kind of the Bill Walsh, Bill Belichickian model is I'll pay big money for a great 3 tech and big money for a great edge defender. You got the great edge defender. You've got a very good, at least a good, maybe a very good 3 tech in Devontae Wyatt. So now as you model the roster out, I'm taking another swing on 3 tech. I'm going out in free agency or wherever and trying to find another 3 tech that if Wyatt does go down, we're at least not going to Cheeks play behind that, right? And that's not a shot at Warren Brinson or Carl Brooks or those guys. They're late round picks. Again, we're the youngest team in the league. So that's where I would put my focus. When you go to stack backer, I think there's a reasonable chance that Quay won't be back. I personally liked Edgerrin Cooper and Isaiah McDuffie and or Tyron Hopper as stack backer. You'll probably have to draft a player or find a young player to help fill in the rest of the roster there and kind of get them brought up like you do in Tyron Hopper. Tyron Hopper getting the interception. I know it was a bad decision, a bad throw by Caleb Williams in that game, but still he made a play, right? I mean, I'm not trying to take a shot here, but when have we seen Quay make that play? You know, when's he been in position to make that play? It is what it is. So I feel good about the stack backers. Safeties, I love Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, love our safety play. Cornerback, need some help, right? I appreciate your service, Keyshawn, but I'm ready to move on. You move on from him, you free up $5 million. I think I got my notes here. Yeah, he's 7.1 against the cap. If you move on from him, you save $5 million this year. Take that $5 million and give me another guy, you know, or maybe go out and spend a little bit more money. I don't put as much stock into cornerbacks. Again, why don't you put stock in cornerbacks, Clay? Because if they just play their assignment, it's not as important as a 3 tech push in the pocket every single play and stuff on the run, right? We're getting after the quarterback. Your secondary gets tremendously better when somebody like Micah Parsons is on the field, right? And you've got the core down the seam, no matter who plays post safety on any individual snaps. Sometimes we'll rotate X into the box. Sometimes we'll rotate Evan down to play spur. Either one of those guys playing post safety, I feel good about, right? And I think that helps your secondary. So again, I build it 3-tech edge, and then right down the middle of that damn defense. Give me a solid stack backer. His name is Adrian Cooper. Give me a solid safety on any down and distance. You can put X back there or Evan back there. I feel good about that. Give me the 3-tech. Go find the dominant 3-tech. And then if you have money left over and you got space left over, hell yeah, give me every superstar that's available at the cornerback position. I love that. But again, you got to prioritize. That's why when they re-signed Jair Alexander to that huge deal, I'm going, we still don't have a 3-tech. What are we doing? And what happened? The defense took a step back. Joe Barry gets fired, bring in Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley has a great year. We said going into the year, expect this defense to take a step back. Why? Because all 31 other teams in the league have a full season of tape of what Jeff Hafley likes to do, and they're going to make adjustments. So typically year 2, they take a slight step back. Now, Hafley may be gone. The interesting conversation here, I'm going to throw this out there. We need to wrap up soon. My wife's going to kill me. Thank you so much, Joe Trev, for the super chat. The interesting thing here, in my opinion, is if Jeff Hafley gets a job somewhere, right? Are you guys happy with the way the defense played this year? Are you happy with it? I think at times it was very good, right? Down the stretch when it mattered the most, it crumbled. So the reason I ask that is if Jeff Hafley gets a job somewhere, do you hire your DC from within? Do you go with Derek Ansley? Do you go with DeMarcus Covington? Because Hafley's going to poach some of those guys. It's theoretically speaking if Hafley gets a head coaching job somewhere. Brian Flores' contract is up. He's free to sign anywhere, okay? Now he's getting head coaching interviews. Will he be a head coach? I don't know. If he doesn't get a head coaching job, do you go get Brian Flores and bring him in to be your DC? And then let him kind of look at the rest of the remaining staff and see who he wants to keep or let go. Interesting thought. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about that if you're watching this back later. Super chat from Mike. Thank you so much, Mike. You're too kind, buddy. He said, I've said all year, Micah covered a lot of warts with our defense. They're just not that talented without Micah on defense. That's why I wasn't that angry with the defense Saturday. Got it. Cool. When Adrian Cooper went out, that's when it was just like, okay, yeah, when I seen him walk out of the blue tent, Mike, and walk to the back, I was like, all right, what are we expecting here now? And I was kind of already there with the offense. I mean, you're down Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft, guys, I don't think people realize the season he was putting together. I think there was a good chance that he could have led all tight ends in yards, touchdowns, yards per reception, everything. If you gave him the same amount of targets that Brock Bowers got the year before, he torches Brock Bowers' numbers. People don't realize that. So, on the offensive side, it's without Tucker Kraft. It's without Elton Jenkins. It's, Josh Jacobs was banged up for the last 6 weeks of the season. True. But I understand why you wasn't angry with the defense. I just don't understand why you're angry, or not you, but why people are so angry with LaFleur not giving him that same, grace on the other side. But again, you give me a better head coach and a better record next year and a better opportunity to win the Super Bowl. Bye, Matt LaFleur. Thank you for your service. I just don't know who that guy is, and nobody can tell me who that guy is. I keep hearing John Gruden, who has barely a 500 career winning percentage. That's right. You heard that right. I think it's like 510. I mean, John Harbaugh, who is 36th all time, Matt LaFleur 16th. You mean John Harbaugh, who could not win a playoff game with a 2-time MVP caliber quarterback, right? At least Matt LaFleur won playoff games with Aaron Rodgers when he was here, right? That's what's tough too. So thank you for the super, Mike. Regil with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, what positions, coach, do you think we need to be upgraded? If so, who should be bringing in? This is where it gets really interesting, Regil. And you can go down a rabbit hole with this too, man. Thanks, everybody, tuning in. Appreciate y'all jumping in there. Hit that like button for us. If you came in to get the Matt LaFleur news, it's at the very first of the show. All right. So you guys can just rewind right back and watch that. That's where that's at. But thank y'all so much. If you would, hit that like button for us. Sub if you're new here too. Appreciate you making us a part of your morning. It's a surprise live stream with all this stuff kind of breaking loose. The interesting thing that you can go down a rabbit hole with the positions coach, you're asking the question, what would I change? This is my blueprint for fixing the coaching staff. And maybe Matt don't want to do this, and this is the problem. I don't know. If I'm Matt LaFleur, I'm praying to sweet baby Jesus that Mike McDaniel does not get a head coaching job. And I'm going to pay him top dollar to come in and be my offensive coordinator. I want Matt calling plays. Guys, we were 5th in the league in passing this year. 5th. We were a top 5 passing team without our starting center. Okay. Without our starting center, without our number 1 target for the first however many games he was healthy in Tucker Kraft. You were missing Christian Watson until late October, early November. I think it was early November when he came back. You were missing Jaden Reed from week 2 till whenever, right? He was our leading receiver the last 2 years. Yeah, the passing game is fine. The problem is the running game, and I think it is the offensive line. I'm firing Coach Butkus. I'm going to tell Steno, go back to being O-line coach. You were great at that. Okay. And if he doesn't like that, we'll go find the youngest, brightest mind around, run blocking schemes in the entire NFL that's an assistant somewhere else that we can give him a technical promotion and pay increase and bring him in to fix the running game. Mike McDaniel is a run game guru. He did it in Houston back in the day. There's still files. If you listen to the Play Caller podcast, there's files that have been passed around the league on run blocking schemes and how to get really, really creative with it. That was written by a young Mike McDaniel that still gets used to this day. You guys need to listen to the Play Caller podcast by Jordan Rodriguez. It's unbelievable. But I would make him my OC, run game coordinator. I put Steno on the O-line, and now you get everybody back healthy. You reset. You try to fix your offensive line. Rasheed Walker, thank you for your service. Jordan Morgan graded out way better than him playing tackle this year. I would put Jordan Morgan at left tackle. I'd have Zach Tom at right tackle for the time being. Go out and try to draft a great young center, right? Like a Linderbaum or somebody like that from the past that you've seen teams like Baltimore fill in those guys, those spots. If not, go into free agency. We said it last year, do it with Drew Dahlman. Go get Drew Dahlman, pay him what he wants. It's important. It's a tier 2 position of importance at center. Again, build the middle of this thing out and build it out right. And now if you have a tackle that you love fall in place, or you have a tackle in free agency you really like, you want to sign him, kick Tom to center, I'm okay with that. But you've got to have your tackles and your center position shored the hell up. Okay. And please don't go into the year just assuming Aaron Banks, because he's got a huge cap hit, should be your guard. You can cut him and free up $4 million this year. You can do a post June cut and probably free up more than that. But Aaron Banks is not the dude at left guard. He's just not. Anthony Belton at right guard, I think there's potential there, although I don't understand how people are acting like that's a slam dunk win of a pick. I didn't never at any point this year did I look at Anthony Belton and go, this guy's a dog. And there's some people that see him that way. I just don't personally. Now, it's year 1. He's a rookie. He changed positions from left tackle to right tackle to guard. Like, who's making that decision? It's the offensive line coach. It's a run game coordinator. That's who's making those decisions. It's not Matt. Matt LaFleur can override them, yes, and maybe he should. But with what he's doing with the passing game and having us 5th best passing offense and Jordan Love playing MVP caliber football, no, we need to get somebody in that can take that off his hands and handle that. I think that's Mike McDaniel. Maybe there's a better coach out there that's similar to Mike McDaniel in terms of he's a run game specialist. Bring them in. It doesn't have to be Mike McDaniel. He's just the first one that comes to mind for me. So, yeah, what position coach you bring in? That hopefully that answered your question there. I would think offensive line coach is kind of the direction I would go there. Reg, appreciate the super chat, buddy. Joe Trev with the super chat. Thank you so much. Is it possible to extend Tucker Kraft early? The rule is, the rules evade me. Somebody help him out in the chat. Throw it in there. There's a rule where you've got to wait. I want to say it's 2 years. You can't do it until 2 years. It might even be you got to wait until there's 1 year left on their contract or some kind of rule that's in place with that too. So you can't just you can't take a player he's played in the league 1 year and then give him an extension. I think there's some kind of rule in place. But Tucker, you're going to be looking to extend Tucker, absolutely. And you want to do that as soon as possible. We've seen enough. I think that's what you're saying, right, Joe? And I completely agree. We've seen enough. That price is only going to continue to go up. Let's go ahead and get him an extension tacked onto his current contract as soon as we could possibly do that. I completely agree with that. Mike Witt with the super chat. Imagine this offense next year with Tucker coming back, a fully healthy Watson and Reed. Look at me grinning. You see me grinning? Love it already. Golden more comfortable in the offense in the second year. Hey, dude, Golden's ready to roll now. Again, we showed tape earlier this year. We could understand why he wasn't getting more snaps. There was times that there was choice routes called, and he was running defenders into Christian Watson's path a little bit. That's rookie mistakes. It's going to happen, right? Matthew Golden's shown us enough. This dude's going to be a damn dog. So, yeah. Tucker coming back, Watson fully healthy, Reed fully healthy, Matthew Golden playing the X. Yeah, we could be cooking with gas. Here's the thing, too. Romeo Doubs. Guys, Romeo Doubs played really good football this year. Really good football. Now, you know the rule. You don't overpay for good. You'll overpay for great. Was he great? I don't know. I'm not saying we should overpay. But if his market value really is at $12 million per, I mean, that doesn't mean fully guaranteed, right? That's not guaranteed money. That's just $12 million average annual value. And if you can sweeten the pot with a little more guaranteed money and bring him back for a cap hit of $6 million this year, and then it blimps to $9 million next year, and then by year 3 it blimps to $14 million, you could structure it in a way if he's willing to come back and the market ain't quite there for him. I wouldn't mind to have Romeo back. The problem is it's going to take touches away from or looks away from Golden, and I know that's going to tick a lot of fans off, and it is a progress stopper. So that's a negative aspect of bringing Romeo back as well. So, but I say that because Romeo may go out there and get $20 million per. And if he does, man, go get your money, Ron. We broke that down yesterday. You can find a video here on the channel. But if you can get him back for, $12 million per, i.e. $6 to $8 million for the first 2 years, and then you can cut bait in 2 years when the guaranteed money's gone and you free up that cap space. And at that point, you need to re-sign Jaden Reed. You got to re-sign Christian Watson first. That's top priority. Everything's going to your wide receiver room is going to be modeled around trying to get Christian Watson an extension, right? And I hope they can get that done before he has. It's so catch-22. I hesitate to say this because as a fan, I don't want to sign a player, them get hurt, and now we're on the hook for that money, right? No fan wants that. But also, from the player's perspective, I want them to get paid and have the security that if they do get injured, they're covered. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of tough there. But I've seen enough with Watson. I want him to be a Packer for his entire career until he can't do the freakish things he does. And he's only going to get better. Like, that's the thing too. Some people assume he's already plateaued. I think he continue to get better. Still things to work on. And he's got the right mindset, the right attitude. I think he's an absolute dog, man. I love Christian Watson as a Packer for sure. So I'm with you though, Mike. I love the optimism, man. I think, and I guess that's the benefit to having the youngest roster in the league, right? But at some point, we got to start to press in a little bit with more veterans, right? Get us some veteran help on the offensive line. What did Chicago do to win 11 games this year? Some Packer fans made fun of them for it. Okay, I didn't. I was like, damn, I hate this. Kind of like the moves. They went and got Joe Tooney and Drew Dahlman. Imagine if we had signed Drew Dahlman at center this year, guys. Imagine if we had done that. We left Elton at left guard. You didn't sign Aaron Banks, right? And you've got, whatever rotation it is across the rest of it. Imagine just that right there. You didn't sign Aaron Banks. You kept Elton Jenkins at left guard. And I was all for moving Elton Jenkins to center because center is more important than guard, in my opinion, okay, at left guard. So I don't want this to sound like, oh, now you're changing. No, I was on board with that. But if you sign Drew Dahlman, which was our first choice, if you go back and watch our show during free agent time, we were like, this is the guy we want, right? That's what Chicago did. They went and got Joe Tooney at left guard. They went and got Drew Dahlman at center. The big boy from Tennessee they drafted, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. And their offensive line was stout, man. Solid offensive line. I mean, you look at Caleb Williams' numbers and go, how the hell can somebody complete that few of passes and have that low of an EPA and then win games? It's because he's got all day to throw back there. And they got a hell of a running game because their offensive line can run the rock. Got to press into that, man. And maybe that's Matt LaFleur's fault. Maybe it is, right? That he doesn't put enough emphasis on the run game. I don't think that's the case because we've had successful run games in the past, right? I'm going to say it. Goody's getting a pass. Goody's getting a complete pass. He's got a hall pass. Nobody's complaining about Goody, and I'm going, boys, I'm going to show y'all something. I hate to do this. You guys know I'm a positive Packer fan, and this isn't everything. It doesn't mean they can't be great players, and this isn't knocking the players. It is what it is. I love to do these type of little research projects, I guess you could say, because I want to know whether I want to hear the information or not. I want to know how good is the GM doing? How good is the coach doing? How good, all these things matter, right? We're screaming fire Matt LaFleur. We're not taking this stuff into consideration. So this was the draft class last year, okay? And I did Brian Gutekunst's 2025 NFL draft class, PFF grades, and where they rank. No minimum snap filters applied, okay? What does that mean? I did not say, okay, a minimum. They may have 2 snaps. They may have 800 snaps. And that goes for everybody across the league. And here's where the draft picks rank, okay? Strictly PFF, not saying it's everything. It's just one metric we can use. Matthew Golden was taken with the 23rd overall pick, okay? His grade 70.5. That's a good grade, guys. That's a hit. That is a huge hit. Now, he's ranked 41st amongst all rookies that were drafted last year, okay? 41st. Now, keep in mind, there's a bunch of players above him that had minimal snaps. That's why I mentioned that. If you did it on a 100-snap basis, I think it was, Matthew Golden comes to like somewhere around 27. Good pick, right? So you pick him 23rd, you give him 27th. You can't do that with every pick. It would take me 3.5 months to put this information together. Second round pick, Anthony Belton. We picked him at pick 54. So you're looking for him to grade out somewhere around the 54th best, right? He graded out the 194th best prospect. 48.2 is the PFF grade. Again, if you don't like PFF, it's cool. I get it. Completely understand. All right. Round 3, pick 87, Savion Williams, 60.2. That puts him in the 107 mark. That's not that bad, right? Savion Williams pick 87, and he's at 107 with a bunch of people with minimal snaps above him. If you remove those minimal snaps, that's a solid pick. Again, he played less than 100 snaps, though, so keep that in mind. And by the way, if you're in our Patreon group, patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access, I updated our 2025 board, and Emilio posted it for you guys in the draft board chat. And you'll notice there's a PFF column. I put all of these grades in. If they're in red, that means they had less than 100 snaps, so you can kind of take it with a grain of salt, if that makes sense. All right, round 4, pick 124, Baron Sorrell, right? 55.4, that's 152nd. Again, you remove the noise above him, that's probably a solid pick. So far, what have we got? Hit for Golden, miss for Belton, hit for Williams, hit for Sorrell. Without removing the noise, Colin Oliver, granted it was only one game, but he was taken 5th round, 159th overall. His grade, 54.9, and his ranking is 156th. So you remove that. That was a good pick. Again, it's a very, very small sample size, but we all seen it on tape. Colin Oliver looks like he's going to be a good football player, okay? So that's a hit. Warren Brinson, 6th round, 198th pick, 44.2, that's 200th best. That's right about where you took him. You can't expect much more than that, right? To be the 200th best prospect. Round 7, this is the one that hurts. Pick 237, Micah Robinson, cornerback, 70.6, 40th highest graded. Again, small sample size, but he graded out good. He's no longer on the team. We cut him. Now, before you go raking Matt LaFleur over the coals, that is a Jeff Hafley decision on whether he wants him to play, to start on defense for him, to be a viable option at cornerback. If you think for a second that Jeff Hafley went to Matt LaFleur and said, I want to keep Micah Robinson, and Matt said, no, that did not happen. Let's stop living in fairy tale land because we want to throw Matt LaFleur under the bus on everything. That one hurts. Because if you guys were watching this show, that was one of my dudes. Go back, go through Patreon, comb through. I did a prospect report on him when we drafted him. I was really excited about Micah Robinson. Backstory, everything. Really liked that pick. Unfortunately, the coaches agreed to cut him. And then, of course, you got Williams, guard/tackle, drafted in the 7th round. He was injured on injured reserve, so you just kind of throw that one out the window. So when you look at that draft class, the reason I mention it, the Belton, that's a pretty big miss. Now, he could get better. I hope he does, right? And you shouldn't say this is the be-all, end-all here. But when you take everything into consideration there, was that a great draft class? What do y'all think? It looks pretty solid, right? Looks pretty solid. But would you have been willing to trade a 2nd-round pick for a better offensive lineman? I know I would have, meaning like a veteran or something. Or, what if there's a number of different ways, and we're playing Monday morning quarterback now, right? But I'm just simply saying, if Goody tried to add an interior offensive lineman with Banks, and it just didn't work, right? He swung and missed. It looked like he swung and missed bad. So what kind of job did Goody do? Free agency was Nate Hobbs and Aaron Banks, Now, Nate Hobbs loved what he said in the locker room. He basically made a promise to the fans, boys, I'm going to play my ass off next year. Y'all going to see a good football player. Hey, you got to show us. Hope it happens. This year it didn't happen. He was banged up with injuries. Hopefully he can get that turned around. Love his attitude, right? We keep saying we want that mean-spirited. We need to bring that, blah, 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 blah. And then Keyshawn goes out and gets a personal foul, and we all hate him for it, right? That's the byproduct of people, doing that type of stuff. So that's how that draft class looked. Didn't plan on doing that. I can't believe we're an hour 9 in, man. You guys getting me in trouble here. Mike Witt with the super chat. Appreciate you. said, I have my first draft crush of draft season, Clayton. Dominic Orange. I'm going to write it down. I like writing these down. Orange D tackle. I'll take a look at him. Guy's a monster. We'll take a look at it for sure. I've been tweeting out a couple of offensive line prospects that I like too, man. Appreciate the super chat, Mike. H.E. Soder with the super. Is Jacobs a mismatch to what Matt LaFleur wants to do with the run and what the Packers like to do? Draft as an O-line top. He is a great Packer. But, Soder, we cannot ignore the fact, right? We cannot ignore the fact that everybody who had a microphone in front of them were talking about how they're going to have to change up their run scheme for Josh Jacobs. He's not an outside stretch run player, right? And that's what we did. We pressed into duo, right? We pressed into inside zone. Could be a huge part of it. Matt LaFleur's offense is wide zone boot, right? We've gotten away from it. Now, Matt LaFleur's the head coach. He can buck a little bit, right? But Matt LaFleur has no say in what players are signed. That was a Brian Gutekunst signing. I think we would all agree Josh Jacobs is a great football player. I'm glad he's a Packer. I hope he remains a Packer. But that's another example, Soder, of the GM thinking one way and the head coach kind of thinking the other, and you just kind of throw it in the head coach's lap and go, all right, make it work. It worked last year, right? This year, injuries caught up to you, and I think it was more about Josh Jacobs being hurt. The big thing that worries me is Emmanuel Wilson taking a step back this year. That's where I got to go, So basically what Goody decided to do was, let's go get Aaron Banks and let's run the rock the way that Josh Jacobs needs to run the rock, and it didn't work, right? And Matt LaFleur is responsible with that as well. So I think that's a great point that you bring up, Soder. And sometimes this type of stuff gets lost in the shuffle as we get, into the season and whatnot. So I'm glad you brought that up, man, for sure. Appreciate the super chat. And the last one here, Reggie with the super. I've seen a lot of potential in Valentine, but it has yet to show up. What seems to be the problem? Is he not that good, or is it the scheme? I've been so up and down on Valentine too, Reggie. His rookie year came out, played like cheeks. I said, he is not the dude. No. Year 2, played good, shut me the hell up. Year 3, this was bad. This was really, really bad. So is he the Here's the issue, right? The issue with the defensive back, the issue with the cornerback room, right? Everybody who wants Matt LaFleur fired, as Nick McSwain said, they're screaming the cornerbacks suck, the cornerbacks suck, the cornerbacks suck. Okay, got it. It can be one of two things is the reason the cornerbacks suck. And I'm not saying they suck. I'm doing air quotes here because I don't think there's any player in the league that sucks, but I think we would all agree we're not happy with the way the cornerbacks played this year. Okay. It's one of two things. Either Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon are not good NFL cornerbacks, okay, or they're not utilized right. That's the only two options it could be. Do we agree on that? Like, it can't be anything other than either they're bad players or it's bad scheme, bad, deployment, if you will. Okay, either one of those, it's either you're blaming Jeff Hafley or you're blaming Brian Gutekunst. That can't fall at the feet of Matt LaFleur. It can't. It can't fall at the feet of Matt LaFleur. If the cornerbacks are bad, like that portion of the fan base says, and they are bad and we're not happy with the cornerback room, it's either Jeff Hafley's fault or it's Brian Gutekunst's fault. That's what Nick was saying earlier, right? It is what it is. So with that being said, I'm excited to get into the rest of this offseason, man. It's going to be an absolute blast. We got a ton to cover. I planned on doing a 15-minute freaking video on this topic, and you guys just killed it. Y'all crushed it. Bringing the chats, bringing the supers, everybody in the chat. I mean, the regular chat is on fire. I've been trying to peek over there as much as I can, but I'm also trying to cover the supers for those who are supporting and everything. Let's see what Nicole says here. Nicole in the chat says, not utilized correctly. Got it. Okay. So maybe you think they're better than they've played and they're not being utilized right? Let's see here. Boy, I'm scared to read that out loud. I don't know what it means. We'll just say Lil Mick. Lil Mick says Nixon is not a good cornerback. So he disagrees. He thinks that, Nixon isn't a good cornerback. Coach Lynn. Coach Lynn's name is Coach Lynn. Coach Lynn coaches football. Played football. I won't give his complete background. He probably don't want it. This dude's played Division I college football, and he coaches football. He says Valentine's not a great player. So there you go. And look, Coach, this is me being surprised that one of my former Kentucky Wildcats isn't a good player at the NFL level. Right? Man, sucks. We just can't get over the hump over there. Hopefully Coach Stein can come in and take care of business. We'll see, though. Try to get one or two more here. I don't want to completely neglect the chat in here. Let's see what I don't know. I'm worried about Chris in. Chris in, anytime you type something out long with an LOL and a clown emoji, I'm afraid to put it on the screen, but I appreciate you being in here, buddy. Let's see here. Turk McGirt says, I was pissed to see Nixon returning kicks in the Bears game. Why the F didn't you return kicks all season? Yeah, and it's weird. My wife, we talk football all the time. She's the one who continues to give me hell. We need to get a T-shirt. She said she's going to make a T-shirt on our Zelle pay or our I can't remember the name of it now. We've got a merch store somewhere off in the distance. I haven't checked it in over a year. We just created some Packer Fan Total Access shirts and stuff, right? She said she was going to create a shirt that said should have kept the substitute teacher, because she said that to me all year long. God, I can't live it down. But yeah, when you talk about him returning kicks, I'm trying to think of where I was going. I was pissed to see Nixon returning kicks in the Bears game. Why the F didn't you do return kicks all season long? Yeah, I was talking to her about this. When the rules change, like when you re-signed Keyshawn Nixon to that extension, he was arguably the best kick returner in the game, right? He was an all-pro kick returner. I think we'd all agree. But they changed the rules. It's really bad timing to extend him to be the kick returner. They changed the rules, and then he, fumbles that kickoff return against Philly last year on the opening drive, and he said, I don't want to return kicks no more, right? There's just too many things with Nixon where it's like, I don't want to return kicks. I'm cornerback one. He said he hit all his goals this year. He jumped on the pile on that one play in the Bears game for no reason. You did nothing tough there. You think the Bears went, oh, no, he's going to jump on top of the pile. Like, what are we doing, right? There's a lot of negatives there. But if we had known the rule change was going to go the way it did and it was going to affect the return game the way it did, I would not have been on board with re-signing Nixon. I was all on board going, you get the best kick returner in the league and he can play some cornerback, give it to me, right? The reason I say that, Turk, I kind of think that if he had been returning kicks all season, it wouldn't have been great, because the old rules were way more beneficial to how Keyshawn returns. I'll tell you who is built to return with the new rules. Zazzle. Thank you, Emilio. Couldn't remember what it was called. I almost said bedazzled, but I knew I'd get raked over the coals for that. Running backs are better built to return kicks with the new rules. Do you see Josh Jacobs? I know he fumbled. Oh, God, what are we doing? He fumbled. He said he wanted to return kicks. Do you see how – he took it to midfield. He fumbled. God, that was horrible, right? Holding that thing like a loaf of bread, as my wife said. But to me, that type of return, that's what you want for a returner, is a running back with the new rules. I could be wrong, though. But, yeah, he tore that thing right up the middle. I was like, holy cow, that worked. That actually worked. But he fumbled, right? And that's obviously very, very dangerous. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Anything? I think we're good. Let me get out of here before I get in trouble any further. All right, man, we got a bunch of people in here. Really appreciate y'all hanging out. If you're watching on X, I think we got like 1,200 people on X. Do me a quick favor. Click on my X profile. You'll see the YouTube link. Click on that link and come sub to the channel, because you guys are missing out on the chat aspect in here, and you can see all the YouTube chats. You can't see that when you're watching on X. It's a much easier format to be involved with the show, right? And that's what we want here for sure. So Chuck Jagger's great. Hey, thank you so much, man. It's tough flying solo, but again, man, it was awesome getting here and talking ball with y'all. So everybody hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon. Let me know what you think about the Matt LaFleur situation. Whether you agree, disagree, or not, we want to hear from you guys. All right. Let us know in the comments how you feel about this. Not so cool. So you're going to go enjoy some coffee. Thanks. Hey, thank you, buddy. I'm about to go get my second cup too. iRock, good to see you in here, buddy. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Emilio says Clay did all right, Chuck. Like, let's don't blow this out of proportion. Thanks, Emilio. Always pumping me up, man. Give me that confidence I need for the day. So everybody have a great day. We will be back as soon as news breaks, or a little bit later, to break down, like we talked about, the potential re-signing of a Malik Willis or a Quay Walker, and what their market value is and how that may be high or low projection. We'll talk about all that a little bit later. So make sure you hit that subscribe, click the bell icon so you know when we go live here in a little bit. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.